sleeping your way to a better back. Hey everybody, this is Mike Erlob coming at you again with another episode of Power Your Life. So I got to tell you, it is great to be back with you guys live again. You know, I took a few weeks off around the holidays just from the live sessions just to spend time with my family. And you know, speaking of family, I decided to take my family sledding at Mount Crescent last Saturday afternoon. Now, we had never gone and done this before, but you know, we kind of learned our lesson, I guess, so to speak, as we went there. Unfortunately, we got there at Mount Crescent just a little late, and they were not selling any more lift tickets. And so I guess what they're doing is they were limiting the number of people that they would allow on the hill. And so, you know, we got back in the car, and my kids were a little bit, you know, upset, and they really had their hearts on just sledding down the mountain. But we were trying to recover from that and said, you know what, let's go bowling instead. So while we were driving from Mount Crescent down into Council Bluffs, you know, my wife decided to call a bowling alley. And what she found out was that the bowling alley required, doesn't matter the size of your group, you had to purchase one of their large group packages of food and bowling package, which really was actually quite expensive and really was more than we wanted to spend. So that idea didn't work out either. And so the next thing that we thought was, you know, hey, maybe we can get a couple of sleds, and there was a few hills near our house, and maybe we could go sledding somewhere else. And, you know, our old sleds had broken last year, and, you know, we decided that we needed to pick up some new ones, and we went and we checked at Walmart, and then Menards, and then Sam's Club, and then Target, and even Baumgars were all sold out of sleds. So at this point, we decided as we were driving by, we just drove by Culver's. And I don't know if you've ever had Culver's frozen custard, but it is absolutely amazing. So we decided, hey, let's get some frozen custard. It's wintertime. Let's get something cold to eat. Makes a lot of sense, right? So, you know, while we were driving around town, we just went in Culver's and each got some frozen custard. And, you know, as we were sitting in the car and I was watching and listening to my wife and my kids, and they were talking and laughing and eating their frozen custard and just enjoying the day, even though it, you know, wasn't turning out the way we wanted. And it seemed like nothing that day was working out for us. But then, you know, I kind of had this epiphany. I realized something. You see, all I wanted to do on Saturday was just to spend the day with my family, laughing, bonding, and having fun. And that is exactly what we were doing. It wasn't what I had planned, but listening to my kids tell their stories and jokes in the car while we were driving around was just perfect. So this got me thinking, you know, that when we change our perception of an event, it can completely change our attitudes. You see, changed attitudes can lead to a more enjoyable experience. You know, we get to choose how we perceive things. You know, we can choose to focus on what we don't like about a situation or an experience, which basically leads to frustration, anger, and irritability. Or we can accept what is happening, and we can change our focus, which changes our perception, and that changes our attitude. And so when you do that, the result is you end up with more joy, love, and peace in your life. So speaking about peace, let's talk about how to get a more peaceful sleep and what that means for you and your back. So many of you, I've talked about this in the past, many of you may already know that I have suffered from back pain personally. And one of the things that I have noticed with my own back issues was that my sleep habits are directly related to how my back feels. So now what I want to do today is I want to really go more into depth on this subject. So got a question for you. How many of you out there find yourselves just trying to, you know, quote, burn the candle at both ends, right? Unquote. So many of us do this all the time. We are all trying to do way too much. You know, between your work, family commitments, kids' activities, sports, just life in general, it is getting busier and busier. And when you combine this with the technology that we have now with our phones and tablets and computers, it's like we never get a chance to shut down. You know, have you ever had your phone, you know, whether you have an iPhone or a Samsung, doesn't matter. Have you ever noticed when your phone, like, you never shut it off, right? And sometimes this happens to me. Sometimes my phone, it like gets glitchy. It like stops working. it gets stuck, the screen freezes, and you just got to do that hard reset, right? And you just got to turn it off. And when you turn it off and you need to let it rest for a while, and then you turn it back on, what happens? It works just fine. And we're no different. You see, we have to have that downtime. Except, our phones, we can keep them on all the time, but it's good to turn them off from time to time. But we got to be, our bodies need to shut down on a regular basis every day. And because we're so busy now, so many of us are sacrificing our sleep time. And I hear this all the time, that there's just not enough hours in the day. And I hear that from so many of my clients. And I'm going to tell you, I have been absolutely guilty of the same problem. I used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, not go to bed until 11 at night. And I would brag. I would just brag about how little sleep I could get. I used to think that, hey, you know what? I can get by on 4 to 5 hours, and that's perfectly fine. I'd wake up and say, yeah, I'm a little tired, but I'm feeling okay. Well, I used to think that was okay. But the reality is that just simply does not work. That kind of sleep, it just really took a toll on everything. It took a toll on not just my attitude, but my ability to concentrate, my ability to process things. And you know what? The really big one is it took a toll on my back pain. So what I found was that when I didn't sleep, my back was just way more painful and stiff. And here's what I'm going to tell you. We all require 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, all right? If you don't get this, it will have a tremendously large impact on your back pain. Now, here's some statistics for you, okay? 1/3 of all Americans don't get enough sleep. And even Albert Einstein would get 10 hours of sleep. I don't know about you, but if one of the most intelligent men who has ever lived needed his sleep, just maybe he was onto something. What do you think? Here's some more sobering stats that I want to share with you, okay? If you go clear back into the early 1900s, back in 1910, average American got about 9 hours of sleep a night. Now, that's 6.8 hours. 31% of Americans get less than 6 hours of sleep a night. So not only does this lack of sleep make you cranky, but it just really affects all aspects of your life. You see, sleep is required to heal your body. Sleep is required to cleanse your brain of the neurotoxins that are produced during the day. And lack of sleep, it has been shown to increase eating patterns, increase cravings, increase late night snacking, it increases cortisol levels, and it decreases insulin sensitivity. So we know already from previous shows that I've done how important your diet and eating right is for controlling your body's inflammation and your ability to heal. But your lack of sleep will impact this too. And we'll go a little bit more into depth on that, but just one thing I wanted to highlight was we just got done saying if you don't get enough sleep, it increases your late night snacking and your cravings. And, what happens is you start waking up if you're not sleeping through the night and you just start eating stuff that's just really bad for you. I mean, how often, how many times do we wake up in the middle of the night and go, you stumble out into the kitchen and you eat a plate of broccoli? How many people really actually do that, right? I'm going to tell you that's probably almost never, because if you're like me, instead what you reach for is the ice cream, the cookies, the cake, the sugary processed foods, peanut butter, these things that have such a negative impact on your gut, which can then in turn lead to a leaky gut, and it will contribute to inflammation levels in the body. So I recently just did a 2-part series called Eating Your Way to a Better Back, and I also did another 4-part series called The Key to Healing is Through a Healthy Gut. That goes into a lot more depth about, how your diet and how all of these, processed sugary foods really have an impact on your healing. If you guys haven't checked those out already, I really highly suggest you go back and do so. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Now, increased eating and cravings are obvious problems for your waistline, right? And now you know that this lack of sleep and these increased eatings and cravings, these things are bad for your back too. But that lack of sleep also increases your cortisol levels, and it decreases the insulin sensitivity. So, how do these hormones affect your back? Well, let's first talk about cortisol. It's a stress hormone, okay? And also insulin is a hormone that unlocks the body's cell to use glucose as energy. Now, going into cortisol, I could go into detail about the specifics, about, about how cortisol affects so many of your body's symptoms and systems, right? But that's going to be for another day. Well, here's what I want you to know. The studies have shown that high levels of stress end up meaning higher levels than normal levels of cortisol are correlated to the perception of pain and the pain thresholds in humans. Okay? So basically, what that says is the higher level of cortisol in your system, the more pain you will perceive in your body. And that's why stress management, like relaxation, meditation, and sleep, are so critical in reducing pain. So what about insulin? Well, we just said that lack of sleep causes decreased insulin sensitivity. So how does that affect your back? Well, when the cells of your body are not sensitive to insulin, okay, that's being produced already, what happens is it triggers your pancreas to produce even more insulin. Now, this results in higher level of insulin in the body, which is a real problem because this can lead to insulin resistance, which can lead to prediabetes and eventually type 2 diabetes. Now, we know that insulin resistance leads to those higher levels of insulin in your body. This also has a direct impact on your inflammation levels. And this contributes to your back pain along with so many other health issues, including weight gain. Okay, so now you know what lack of sleep does. How do you get more of it? All right, so I'm going to give you guys my 5 steps to getting a good night's sleep. Okay, step number 1, you got to get a good mattress. All right, you're going to spend up to 1/3 of your life in bed asleep. You've got to have a good mattress. So take a look at your current mattress, okay? If it's older than 5 years, and you get down there and you look along the top of it, and you can see the impression of your body, it's time to get a new one, all right? You want a mattress that is supportive, excuse me, and one that keeps your spine in neutral, all right? You don't want one that's too hard. You don't want one that's too soft. Many of these memory foam mattresses actually are really good. Personally, I use the Nectar mattress. I found it to be extremely helpful, very supportive, not too soft, not too hard. I really like it. I do recommend that to my clients, but you know, any mattress will work. You just have to make sure it meets those requirements. Okay? Step number 2, melatonin. Start taking melatonin, all right? Melatonin supplementation works very closely with your body's circadian rhythm to help prepare you for sleep. Start out with about 3 to 5 milligrams about 45 minutes before bedtime. It will start to help trigger your body to tell your body that it's time to start shutting down. Step number 3, do not take any caffeine after 6 p.m., okay? Caffeine is a stimulant. It will prevent your body from wanting to shut down. So no late night coffees. And hey, no Monster, no Red Bull after 6 p.m., okay? Step number 4, turn off your electronics. Turn them off at least 1 hour before going to bed. This allows your brain to start shutting down and preparing for sleep, okay? Just like your computer needs to be shut down and needs to have take time to do so, so does your brain, all right? Your brain is just like a computer. So instead of watching TV in bed, you should read a book, magazine. That will help you to shut down, or just relax and meditate. That's very helpful too. Which, speaking of that, that's step number 5. Use a guided meditation app, okay? Guided meditation, it helps regulate your breathing pattern. And this in turn activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming side of your nervous system. You see, it helps you to shut down. So make sure that your room is completely dark and quiet when meditating. There's a lot of really good apps out of there. Simple Habit is one that I've used, and I've found that their guided sleep meditations are just absolutely amazing. But you could use apps like Calm. There's so many others out there. Use those 5 steps, And the other is create a sleep routine, okay? Meaning you follow these steps each night, but always try to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day. That helps your body start to learn when it hits that time frame that, hey, it's time to shut down and go to bed, and then it's time to wake up. So you'll find that not only will you think better and you'll be less stressed and more fun to be around, but your back will feel better and you'll even lose weight quicker. So how awesome is that? Now, if you're having back pain and you would like to find out what that root cause is, and you really want to fix things for good, you should sign up for our new back pain breakthrough session. All you got to do is click on the link below in the comments to find out more about this amazing new program that we're offering. And as always, I'm going to leave you with a thought-provoking quote from Chuck Swindoll. And what he said was, words can never adequately convey the incredible impact of our attitudes towards life. The longer I live, the more convinced I become that life is 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we respond to it. I'm going to let you guys chew on that one for a while. Until next time, power your life and keep moving forward.